For joining the third day, our interdisciplinary research workshop. So today we will have an important day concerning the funding opportunities presentation. So we will have in the beginning, we will have a presentation on EU policy on FinTech by DG FISMA. Then we will have a presentation on innovation and research programs by Amelia Hektova. She is from DG Research and Innovation, and afterwards we will have Stefan Kwaki, Head of Department of EIC. And also we will have national contact points today, presenting Marie Curie program possibilities, funding possibilities. But now would kindly and would like to invite Mr. Linas Butėnas from Faculty of Mathematics and Informatics from Vilnius University to exchange the best practices he has. So the floor is yours, Linai.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I think we can begin. Today I was asked by the organizers to share a good practices, and I think it's during 2 days of being here, I think it becomes more and more clear that a lot of things to be involved in one thing, in the research and in the actions, to be able to complete some of the research goals. So my position is, I think, a good example that I am working in the university as a researcher, and I also lead a research and development unit in the private company, SuperHow. So this practice comes from the model, as I mentioned, which involves many things. So these things connects from university part, which can support on the research activities, people having research experience, knowledge how to do that, and also students who are able to execute many challenging tasks, which maybe will not be so convenient for maybe some other companies or something. So also in this framework here in Lithuania, as you will see in the examples, the regulatory organization, in this case Bank of Lithuania, will be presented. It is very important that in the country some government agency or regulatory organization can be or should be the influencer, the initiative keeper for, let's say, in this case, blockchain, CBDC, and other things research. As a helping things that comes to the picture are associations, clusters, and other, let's say, organizations making contacts with needed parties and providing also collaboration network, in some form. And in some cases, as I will present, you will see that research grants or the organizations giving the research grants are important as they support these initiatives. The thing I want to stress here is the examples, yes, you will see from the next slide, but I think what is important to take from this good practice presentation is the key components that should be present. Usually people think that okay, we will get university, company, regulatory organization, and that we will have a good thing. Not necessary. One of the things, if we even return to the last slide, as you see in the center, this is managing organization. Usually you have a lot of initiative, but someone is waiting for someone to start and to manage everything. So either university or private company or regulatory organization should take the initiative and lead it till the result is delivered. So this is very important. The other thing is that it should be the right mindset of these organizations, because if you just meet a person and it says, yeah, that's nice, maybe not, we will do that, so you will not get a result. So it is very important, as in the next slides will be, that here in Lithuania we have a very big support from Lithuanian Bank, an initiative to lead the digital money or CBDC side or other different things. It is important that we have private companies like SuperHow who can acquire the knowledge and lead the projects also, and also connect to the university students and researchers to keep that going. So first thing is research-oriented goal in all the organizations, all of them. The second one is research-oriented management. That is also connected to the second thing, investing own resources, because the research usually takes the money, doesn't give immediate results. And the next one is also sharing immediate maybe benefits, what you get from the grant, from the project, and the future rewards. This is also very important. Usually all of these components need to be present in the minds of the participating parties to successfully do the research, because the result of the research will bring the real rewards only afterwards it is finished, and maybe several years will pass. So it's very important to have a right mindset in all the organizations. One of them is not enough. Yeah, and the joint work with the university and company is very good, because the company is usually oriented to the getting the result, and the university is very good at providing research capabilities. So you have to have a good connection between them, and in the best case, you have to have the right person in both of them. So at some points also the grants, as I mentioned, support the research, because research part is, if it is as more fundamental, it costs more and gives unpredictable future. Maybe you will get some gain, maybe you will not. So let's start from the examples. The first one successful example is called LB Coin. This is the first blockchain-based national bank digital collector coin. So it was not announced very much in the public, but yeah, it was a project that was completed in 2018. It is functioning, started in 2018, completed in 2020. It is functioning until now. So this is the real first live central bank issued NFT in the whole world. At that time, NFT was not something, so it was even not called that way. We kept the idea that this is just some digital representation certificate for the real coin. So it is backed by real coins. There is a gamification element involved in that. So you have to buy like 6 items, digital NFTs, let's say. You have to combine them in the right way. If you do that, you can go to Lithuanian bank and claim a real coin that represents 100 years of declaring Lithuanian Independence Act. So what is important to mention that this made a path, a possibility and understanding in all the parties that, okay, blockchain is possible to use in the normal bank infrastructure and it can be expanded further. So the next thing is the central bank digital currency prototype project, which we helped to Lithuanian bank to complete. This was also an interesting case that a lot of European countries participated in that. It was initiated by the European Central Bank. Here in Lithuania, it was led by regulatory authority Lithuanian Bank, and it used the notions, the concepts, and the techniques that are already here. So what even we know, like IBAN numbers of the accounts in different countries, SEPA like transfers between the countries and inside the country, simulating the people having a bank account and a private digital wallet, and making the transactions, for example, from Lithuania to France, from private account to another private or bank account. So it was an interesting setup of all technologies, gave an understanding and also gave a view to the challenges that should be overcome in the real central bank digital currency system, about the offline exchange, how it can be done or it cannot, about the transfer from one private wallet to the other private wallet when, let's say, Lithuanian person is in Spain and you are just standing together. The question is how you fast transfer the money you own in your wallet, like the digital currency, and how you transfer them to your device to the person who's standing 1 meter from your device. So should you use the same transaction mechanism going to the Lithuanian bank, international transfer service, then Spain bank, then to the amount and so on, to the wallet. So it was good practice, and I think it gave a lot of insight, the viewing from the whole Europe view. The next thing, what we can represent, this is an international project working with other international companies and universities from other countries, which brings the platform for monetizing the intellectual property rights, licenses and so on, which is very important for the also research organizations like universities, other holders of the patents, holders of the licenses and so on, which before was not so easy to do. The good thing is in here, the regulatory authority from USA is participating, viewing, let's say, also screening and understanding how it is done, because some of the items that should be sold on this system might be the securities or might not be. The regulatory authority needs also to understand. So they said, okay, you're allowed to do that. Let's see how it goes. We will be constantly in contact and we will help you to complete that. So this is very important to see that in making such large platforms, some of the standard business can go to the DeFi model, decentralized finances, CDeFi model, centralized decentralized finances, where part of the system is on decentralized, like Ethereum network, and part of the system is on centralized, but also crypto network, having in mind that there participates the custodians who can keep your money. They can be participating electronic money license holders and so on. Yeah, and then a good example is that in this case, the IP rights are made, are transferred to digital world, like digital certificates in the form of NFTs. So actually, if you will be allowed to have a part of the IP rights as NFT, you should be able to go to the decentralized market and maybe exchange it with another person. So the other person can get back to that certificate and yeah, get the benefits. Yeah. This project is interesting because it involves many legislation countries, because in every country you have different laws, so you need to adapt to each country. For example, in Europe you have to keep the data of Europeans in European country servers. America has different rights, USA, for investment opportunities and protecting the ordinary users and so on. Yeah, what else can be told here? Yeah, I think that's it. The good thing is that in that way, the platform is oriented also to this green path, the renewable energy, at some point healthcare, environment projects, so it can give an opportunity to ordinary people to invest their money and support international intellectual property, giving the way for the further research and development. We have also free research initiatives supported by the national research grants, which say that the company should involve also researchers and give the grants for developing the prototypes, which can be used further in some models. So I think this is a good example, as the free research projects that are executed right now are giving the way for the further applications to the European grants. And I think it is important to mention here because as we were speaking, I see many people are involved in one of the other initiatives. The first, for example, a good example is a personal data and data analysis system. The personal data is made protected by the blockchain technology. So you control the data, which is given to the other party or to the network for analysis. And the challenge here is to give the person a personal touch and information, filtered information, what we, for example, expect from Google and, let's say, whatever, Facebook, but without giving your data to these companies. So the thing is, you keep all the data on your mobile phone, and the AI is on your phone, which filters all the data that you need. So no server knows about your data. You control it completely. If you need to share it, you can do it by providing the rights to the authorized party, where blockchain is an unique identification for persons and companies who can access the data. The second one is an IoT device. Data management is the same, very similar to the first one, just here participates our IoT devices like whatever, the fridge, if it has a chip, cameras, and any other data providers in our house. So, for example, I would not like to leak that data out of my house because it can give a lot of information when I am present, when I am not, what I am doing, and so on. So the challenge here is to protect the data feed from each IoT device, to know that it is exactly the same device you have placed in your house or in some whatever building. You know that the data feed is authentical and also not fabricated. And afterwards you have this data, you can do also some AI analysis on finding the patterns, how to better manage that data. For example, giving an energy wise predictable system for the energy company that it knows then they should provide more energy to the network and less, because now in reality the energy companies has to buy more, reserve more electricity capacity than needed in case they need that, because they don't have exact patterns of each house. They have a general pattern, but the lack of the predicament how it will be next day, for example, depending on forecast and so on. The third one is more from gamification field, is giving the better natural behavior of computer games, NPC characters, because if some of you are playing the games, you know that being in the game with the dummy characters is not interesting. But if we look forward that we are going to some virtual places like, and in this future, some layer we call metaverse, we will have a lot of games, social areas, virtual meeting points. Maybe some of these will be filled with artificial intelligent characters, which we would like to see as most naturally behaving as we want, to feel good in that area. So this project also is contributing to more artificial intelligence part than the blockchain part. So all these projects are supported by research grants, which are very important, and as I mentioned, they give the way for application for the further grants. So we have also submitted two grants for European funding. One of them, for example, is concerned with the medical data privacy system. This was a network of cancer research units, laboratories, institutes and hospitals in the whole Europe. There was something like 20 partners. If I'm not wrong, some German university was leading this application, and the blockchain part here comes as also as a data protector, as data management service, where I, having also some digital identity, can have all my medical data connected to me, and all the data can be also anonymized. But still, until I give the permission for the research laboratory or any research unit to use my data, they cannot do that. So as we had some talks here, there are people who are involved in medical data protection, and this is very important in the future to have a control of your trials, medical data, your tests, that you know where they are used, who use them, and how long you are give the access for them. Also, you can describe what happens after like 50 years of data. What happens if you die? Can everyone use the data, or no one use data, and so on. So these are good examples, and the last one I just remembered getting here is that due to all this research, we were able to establish a blockchain competence center in Lithuania, and this competence center now has a free blockchain education course for any new people coming here in this area, giving the basic understanding of the field. So that was also mentioned in this conference, that it is very important to educate, to give the people access to the structured data, not just go to the YouTube and learn something. This is a structured path to get from zero knowledge to the basic level, understanding blockchain-related systems, features, and what possibilities it gives, and also when not to use a blockchain and when you do not need that. So yeah, that's the presentation, and I think we are ready for questions if there are some.
Okay, any questions? If we have no questions, I would thank you very much, Linus. Oh, okay, we have one question.
Hello, I was just wondering concerning the different collaboration that you mentioned. It was already partners with the university or with other of your colleagues, or it was new relationships that you already had, and then step by step you set up that source of financing?
You mean the application for the research grants?
Yes, for instance.
Yeah. No, we have not. Yeah, we hadn't these partners in advance. Usually, maybe also a good example is that when you work in the field for 4 years, you somehow gather more and more contacts. And I actually don't remember the path we came to that, for example, European grant initiative. Maybe it was through some our clients or through the cluster we participated in. So they gave. I know that one of the Lithuanian cancer research institutes were participating. So, but your question is very in point of that, as I also mentioned in the last days, that this is a good place in this conference to find partners, because if you want to apply further, like this year, next year, you have to have a good network. So I think university and other associations are good places to start searching for that. Yeah.
The last question, okay, the last question, because we have already Mrs. Ludmila joined.
Thank you. How this medical data project is connected to future medicine in Lithuania? Is it only theoretical or some exercise, or it is in some way coordinated with Lithuanian Health Ministry? Because I think it will be a problem. Thank you.
Well, these research activities are not coordinated in, as I understand, in any country with the, let's say, authority like a healthcare ministry. So this was aimed to do like first a prototype to be sure that it is possible to do that, and what like people need to be acquainted with, how the system should be made, how much it will cost to maintain such a system. So I would say this is just more like a prototype, and afterwards, if it is successful, then it can be coordinated more from the European view to support this, because then you have a very huge support, and usually for the research you have to have a lot of data. It means that not only in Lithuania, but you need to connect like all European healthcare institutions to that system, or at least a lot of them, to be able to have a good research data. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Linus. Thank you. Thank you. It was very interesting to hear some practical actions you have in this sphere. Okay, so today I will switch to another micro. We are greeting, thank you so much for waiting, Mrs. Ludmila. I'm greeting with Mrs. Ludmila Andreeva-Paskov. She's from European Commission, DG FISMA. And we will hear update on European Union policy on FinTech today. So we are very, very happy to have you here, and thank you for joining, and the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much, Azelma. Thank you for this invitation. Thank you to the Vilnius University for this opportunity to present the Commission's agenda on digital finance. The issue we're going to discuss today, as I see that you are discussing, has been already for a few days now. It's very, very topical for EU citizens and EU businesses. As we all know, this is Europe's digital decade, and the recent pandemic, we can say that it only reinforced this fact. That's why in September 2020, we published our digital finance package. Consumers, SMEs, big businesses have been accessing financial services in digital form. Innovative market participants are deploying new technologies, and we see how nowadays all this is challenging traditional business models. The digital finance has helped tackle this recent unprecedented situation created by the pandemic. There is still, and if there was still any doubt, it is now clear that digital finance has much to offer. We consider that digital finance would unleash European innovation, create new opportunities to develop better financial products for consumers, as we heard from previous speakers, including for people currently unable to access financial services. We believe that boosting digital finance would therefore support Europe's economic recovery strategy and the broader economic transformation. And it would open up new channels to mobilize funding and support of the Green Deal and the new industrial strategy for Europe. As the digital finance accelerates cross-border operations, it also has the potential to enhance financial market integration in the banking union and the capital markets union. So all the policies are related and therefore strengthen Europe's economic and monetary union. Next slide, so we can pass. Yeah, there is a political context. We believe that the strong and vibrant European digital finance sector would strengthen Europe's ability to reinforce our open strategic autonomy in financial services, and by extension, our capacity to regulate and supervise the financial system to protect Europe's financial stability, and for the SMEs to address the challenges and the risks of the digitalization of SMEs, and that can promote a more conductive environment for facilitating companies' access to finance through digital technologies. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the digital finance is part of the broader digital agenda. And the digitalization is leading to deep structural changes in the financial sector. Market participants are relying more and more on digital processes, while innovative applications, products, and new assets classes are gaining ground. Innovation in finance, as I said, has a big role in building a more resilient and competitive Europe. And the digitalization is leading to deep structural changes in the financial sector. The main idea and the main goal is preserving financial stability and protecting investors and consumers. This is our key objective. Next slide, please. I will shortly mention the pandemic. This unprecedented situation only highlighted the benefits of digital finance to each and every citizen and company. Online identifying verification has enabled consumers to open accounts and use multiple financial services at a distance. A growing proportion of in-store payments are now digital and contactless, and online purchase e-commerce has significantly increased. FinTech solutions have helped to broaden and speed up access to loans, including loans supported by governments in response to the crisis. The pandemic has shown that our citizens and businesses are ready for digital finance, and we all are, and that digital finance has a lot to offer for them. That's next slide, please. Next slide, yeah, maybe even next one, so that we go to the digital finance strategy. Our digital finance package is a game changer actually for the European online economy. It is designed to support the digital transformation of the financial sector and contributing to the overall digital transition in the European Union. The proposals establish the digital foundation of a regulatory framework that manages risks and puts the consumers at the heart of the new digital economy. It aims at building this acceleration and support the digital transformation of the finance on a lasting basis. We prepared our digital finance strategy based on the recommendation of the expert group on regulatory obstacles to financial innovation, the so-called FIEC. Also a broader public consultation that we made with more than 400 stakeholders, And we also did a series of more than 30 online webinars, gathering more than 6,000 people from across member states that took part during the course of 2020 until today. Today we're continuing with our outreach. And we found a lot of support for Europe's broader strategy to support the digital transition through finding the digital skills agenda. What we understood that one of Europe's biggest assets is its single market. As you know, digital finance needs opportunities to scale up new ideas and innovation. And nowhere else in the world you can access 27 or maybe even more countries with 450 million consumers through a single authorization, a single passport based on a single set of rules. This is what both startups from France to Lithuania, one of the most advanced and best in this area, from Italy to Sweden, you name it, and players from across the globe were telling us during these events. With our digital finance strategy, we want to make the most out of this single market for digital finance and for firms and consumers, for the people. The strategy, next slide please, sets out 4 strategic priorities. First is tackling fragmentation in the digital single market on financial services. Less obstacles to cross-border operations would enable European consumers to access more cost-effective products and services, and would help European financial firms scale up their digital operations to increase efficiencies. The second one is ensuring that the EU regulatory framework facilitates digital innovation in the interest of consumers and market efficiency, faced to accelerated innovation cycles supported by progress in technology. The Commission is taking a proactive approach and proposes some adjustments to the EU financial service legislation, which I'm going to talk a bit later. This is precisely actually the reason why the Commission came forward with legislative initiatives on crypto assets. Creating a European financial data space to promote data-driven innovation, building on the European data strategy is our third priority, and because we believe that enhanced access to data and data sharing within the financial sector will encourage the financial sector to embrace data-driven innovation, and this should lead to more innovative products for consumers and businesses. I will talk after on each of these priorities. Then the fourth one is addressing challenges and risks associated with the digital transformation, in particular to promote resilience, the data protection, and appropriate prudential supervision. As a part of the package, we presented several legislative proposals on digital operation resilience, the so-called DORA proposal. So the digital finance strategy is actually this digital finance package. It consists of several legislative proposals next slide, please. Maybe yeah. So the next, I think that I already covered two. Yeah. So maybe here we can stay. So digital. So the MiCA proposal. As I said, the digital finance package has various legislative proposals on crypto assets, the MiCA proposal on cybersecurity, DORA proposal, and strategy on payments. The collective impact on all these rules is significant. They will apply to all the EU members once in place. MiCA proposal is the first one I'm going to talk about. The European Parliament and the Council, they already supported the second proposal, the the proposal to establish a pilot allowing firms to experiment at small scale the so-called DLT, the distributed ledger technology. But going forward, the proposal for regulation on markets in crypto assets, the MiCA proposal, will, for the first time, establish a common European framework for crypto assets. These assets, if properly regulated, hold significant potential in areas such as more efficient payments and access to funding. The regulation we're proposing introduces a bespoke regime for previously unregulated crypto assets, including stable coins that can be used as a payment tool. This builds on the principles laid out in the recent, or not only G7 and Financial Stability Board, on the need to capture the risks of stablecoin activities. As you know, and has already been discussed, large part of the crypto assets markets are not subject to financial regulation for the time being, despite the high number and large volumes of crypto assets currently traded on different venues. This leaves consumers, very often unprotected, service providers without adequate operational resilience, and the markets prone for fraudulent activity. International convergence on developing sound standards is key to addressing these risks. Next slide, please. Then next one, because and next one, I have a few slides on MiCA. So maybe we can stay here. We have actively engaged in the international work on crypto assets, and we have proposed legislation aimed at mitigating the risks. The Commission's market in crypto assets, the proposal will establish common rules for crypto asset service providers and issuers across the Union. In addition, our recent anti-money laundering AML proposal will complement MiCA and extend the scope of crypto asset service providers that will now be considered obliged entities, aligning the framework with international standards. Next slide, please. And even next, I think we have a bit more. As regards crypto assets, another area of focus is the risk to financial stability and monetary sovereignty that might emerge due to the potential wide adoption of stable coins for as a means of payments. We believe MiCA addresses these risks, including by granting a strong role to the ECB in vetting the issuance of such assets. The Commission and the ECB are also working on a digital euro, but I will mention this a bit later in my presentation, in order to prepare for the future demand for public digital money. The emergence of the DeFi, the decentralized finance, which involves the provision of crypto assets-based financial services without identifiable intermediaries responsible for the service provisions or being the counterparty to a transition, may also require further attention, especially if it were to grow beyond its current niche. Further reflection, we believe further reflection is needed on how DeFi could be regulated and supervised. And we are currently reflecting on this internally and within international fora. And it was very interesting also to hear what was said in this conference. As already mentioned, we have made good progress setting up a new framework for markets in crypto assets. And we hope that the negotiations between the member states, the parliament, and during the trilogues for the final agreement will finalize soon. But already as of early next year, as part of a pilot, market participants will be able to experiment with issuing, trading, and setting shares or bonds using blockchain technology. This is the DLT that I mentioned before. The DLT pilot proposal is it's actually while MiCA will lay down rules for the crypto assets that fall outside EU financial services legislation, some crypto assets actually do qualify as financial instruments and are hence covered by current EU rules, the EU securities markets legislation. However, we have observed that some of these rules make it difficult to exploit the full potential of issuing, trading, and setting securities on the distributed ledger technologies. This is exactly the purpose of the DOT pilot, to address these problems and hence facilitate innovation, and this will be applicable as of next year. Now, in the interest of time, I will pass to the DORA proposal. Maybe next slide, or so more, the further on, I think. Digital cooperation resilience. We have proposed a new proposal on digital operation and resilience. It is like a response to the ever-increasing dependency of the financial sector on software and digital processes, and the growing ICT risks which are inherent to finance. The aim is to enact the fundamentals of cyber hygiene and to ensure that all participants of the financial system have the necessary safeguards in place to mitigate cyber attacks and other risks to their digital resilience. Last week, it was mid last week, we reached with co-legislators a provisional political agreement on DORA. Once applicable, a few years from now, DORA would strengthen the way financial firms manage the risks stemming from the information and communication technologies upon which they increasingly rely. It would also establish oversight via the European supervisory authorities of the largest third-party providers of ICT services, for example, the cloud service providers. This is another illustration of how digitalization actually is blurring the boundary between finance and fintechs. Cyber, a bit more on DORA, and maybe the how it relates also to the needs. Cyber threats are serious. They can threaten lives, as we have seen with few examples a few years ago. So we need to well calibrate. We need to have well calibrated tools for all the situations. The NIS directive is a minimum harmonization directive applying across sectors, but finance has some special features. We are more dependent on digital solutions. We're strongly interconnected via millions of daily payments and securities transactions. We're more advanced in developing a resilience against cyber threats, and we have a fully harmonized single rulebook in the EU. So DORA will ensure that all participants of the financial system are subject to a common set of standards to mitigate these ICT risks. Because, as I said, even attacks on the weakest links can threaten our financial system. So DORA covers all financial entities, but the requirements are at the same time tailored to the risks of specific entities, as well as to their size and business profiles. For example, for small advisor, thinking systematically about basic issues such as password or data protection will go to a very long way to tackle the attacks they are more likely to face. More on DORA, maybe we will. Next slide. Can I see whether we can have more time to talk on DORA? So basically, A common thread in the digital finance is indeed that our financial firms are more and more interconnected with technology firms. Maybe this is also important to mention. So how can you make sure that financial supervisors still have the tools to protect financial stability and market integrity? Well, DORA provides a clear answer. If a bank uses a cloud service provider to hold the data on your deposits or processing your payments, financial supervisors can ask the bank to manage this risk. And second, but they can also must have the power to directly oversee the most critical of these third-party tech providers, ask information and make a recommendation to them. So this is a good example how it will work in practice. The oversight framework DORA builds on precedents, notably practice of oversight applicable to SWIFT. It took also some inspirations from current US legislation and practice. Maybe next slide, I will try to cover some other FinTech initiatives. As I mentioned, there is more in the pipeline. Later this year, the Commission will set out the way forward for open finance, based on the forthcoming DigiConnect Data Act proposal and following a thorough review of the PSD2. And a key part of the European financial data space, we are building this framework will empower retail business clients to access their data. On open finance, as outlined in the digital finance strategy, the Commission is considering a framework on open finance in line with the Commission's broader data strategy. We want to build a financial sector data space, complementing the horizontal data sharing policies that are being put in place. And this would build on and take account of open banking experiences as set out in the revised Payment Services Directive. However, it will be broader. It will be covering not only payments, but other areas of financial services, banking, insurance, securities, and will unlock the opportunities of access and reuse customer permission data across a big range of financial services and products. So open finance has the potential to transform consumer experience by putting the users at the center of this data-driven finance. And the basic idea is that consumers and firms can grant trusted third-party providers access to their data in a safe and secure way, and in return gain access to a wider range of financial providers that may better suit their needs. So the aim of the EU Open Finance Framework is therefore to ensure that more data becomes available for use for innovative services in the financial sector, while at the same time keeping the companies and individuals who generate the data in full control. Big techs, I'll shortly cover this area as well. Technology companies, large and small, as you know, they're entering the market. This increases competition and improves efficiency. However, it is yet another makes value chains more complex, making it harder for supervisors to have an overview of the risks. This affects traditional banking. There's more competition. Bank type services are increasingly provided by fintechs. There are new business models. Tech companies are increasingly bundling various services and products while associated financial services. Big techs can accelerate these fintech trends, and they have significant market power and have the capacity to scale up offerings. The impact of these trends on incumbents depends on the ability of banks to adapt to them. Big tech companies are partnering with banks to offer non-financial services for digital innovation to work in a fair manner for new players and incumbents. The Commission champions a golden principle: same activity, same risks, same rules. This is basically the principle that we are following as announced in the digital finance strategy. The Commission issued a call for advice in February to the European supervisory authorities on how best to address challenges arising from the entry of new tech players in financial services. Through this call, we want to better understand how are new players and businesses that come with the digital transformation changing risks in our financial system, and do our existing rules cover these risks? And do supervisors have the tools actually to monitor them? Should the need arise, the Commission is ready to propose amendments to our legislation on the basis of European supervisory authorities' advice. Very shortly on the retail payments strategy, it creates conditions to make the development of instant payments and EU-wide payment solutions possible, and enhance consumer protection and ensures payment solutions are safe. Enhancing cross-border payments is a global and multi-countries, multi-dimensional problem, which will require the combined efforts of many public and private sector stakeholders. Through retail payment legislation, the EU also already implemented a certain proposed measures, as you know, under G20 and cross-border payment roadmap. We also tailored the digital finance platform, which is available now for citizens. It's also part of our initiatives that we are undertaking. So now it is open and functioning, and we are continuing our work in allowing innovative business models to scale across the EU. Finally, I will be short. The Commission is working at technical level with the European Central Bank, exploring the possible introduction of the digital euro to provide business and citizens with more competitive means of making their daily payments. This is still an evolving concept, and citizens may wonder whether about its added value. And what is the difference compared to electronic deposits in banks? What will be the benefits of playing? All these are legitimate and important questions, and these are also political questions that we need to discuss, that we're still discussing. The European Commission and the ECB closely work with the Eurogroup and the European Parliament, and to sound out opinions of businesses and citizens. Following the ECB's public consultation, we just one few weeks ago also launched a comprehensive targeted consultation that will run until mid-June. So we can, if you can fill it in, it's very important for us to have your feedback. As you know, the euro is the main symbol of our united Europe. Bringing the digital euro into the digital age is a European project. We have to be clear on our objective. We want to make the euro fit also for the digital age. We don't mean to establish a new form of central bank money for the sake of it. In a digitalized economy, businesses and people naturally use less and less cash. So the International Central Bank digital currencies, the CBDCs, and other innovative means of payment denominated in foreign currencies are expected to pose intensifying competition to the euro. In complement to the euro cash, a digital euro would provide a public money alternative to private digital means of payment, a safe, instant, and efficient digital means of payment for all population groups. But actually, this does not mean that cash will no longer be available, and it's not what we are looking at. Cash will remain essential in citizens' everyday life, and the Commission is determined to ensure that cash is widely accepted. In fact, our public consultation also includes quite a few questions on whether the legal tender status for cash should be further harmonized across Europe. The privacy, maybe just a short on the privacy, is at the core of our policy debate on the digital euro. Privacy and the data protection are fundamental rights. And with the IML package adopted in July 21, the EU would take decisive steps to further enhance our policy tools to fight money laundering and terrorism financing. So a digital euro needs to provide for a high level of privacy and data protection while ensuring compliance with these regulations. In conclusion, the digital euro would provide clear benefits for businesses and citizens. We hope that it will do this, but it also carries some risks, financial stability risks, risks to crowding out the private sector. The digital euro involves key political, industrial, and societal choices, and we need still to debate this. And on this basis, we will prepare the legislative proposal we plan to adopt early 2023 next year to establish the digital euro and regulate its essential aspects. So I take the next slide, please, or yes, so maybe so I can probably finish. As the closing remarks, Europe can and should play a leading role in steering the harmonized development of digital financial complex and shaping the future of digital finance. And a clear regulatory framework on digital finance is urgently needed to ensure that Europe can make the most of the opportunities digital finance presents while providing a high level of consumer protection and safeguarding financial stability, and not least the digital operational resilience. The EU digital financial agenda is advancing, as I already mentioned, with good progress on legislations on crypto assets and now the political agreement on the digital operational resilience. So crypto assets, as I said, are growing rapidly, and MiCA's ambition is to remove fragmentation and divergence of national rules to enable crypto asset businesses to scale more easily. Similarly, the financial firms are increasingly dependent on smooth operations of ICT to provision the financial services. So the Commission is determined to work towards all these goals. It has set in the digital finance package and the retail payment strategy. And we trust that we can count on the collaboration of the universities, of the industry, users representatives, the co-legislators, ECB, Eurosystem to achieve our ambitious vision. Thank you very much. I wish you a fruitful conference, workshop, and I look forward to engaging with you all. Should you have some questions, I'm happy to maybe to reply later on in writing or come back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Ludmila. Thank you for your very detailed presentation on EU policy on FinTech. Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you here today with us. It's a pity you didn't have opportunity to come to Vilnius, but please do. And let us know.
Pleasure.
Yeah, let us know if you will be nearby. So thank you very much, and I know that you have to run. So thank you one more time. Okay.
Thank you very much, and sorry for taking more of your time. And thank you for the nice.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we are moving further on with our agenda, but we have a shift right now a little bit in the agenda. So I would like to mention that we are inviting right now Mr. Stefan Kouaki. He is the head of Department EIC, European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency, established by European Commission. So thank you very much for joining us in person today. We are very happy to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be in Vilnius. So I will briefly mention to you what the European Innovation Council does. So the European Innovation Council is part of Horizon Europe. I think I have a colleague that later will present the general framework for research and innovation for the period 2021-2027, which is called Horizon Europe. The European Innovation Council is part of Pillar 3 of Horizon Europe and is endowed with 10 billion euros to concentrate on identification, development, and scaling up of breakthrough innovations in Europe. And the idea here is to try to catch up the delays, or I would say the gap that has emerged on breakthrough innovation between Europe and the US or China, and to have the capacity to fund ideas and companies that have, I would say, the potential to develop those disruptive innovations in Europe. We do this with three funding streams that I will explain in a second, and that go from the moment of the idea in the lab at university level to the moment where we start the scale-up process of companies that is implementing such a funding scheme. We proceed with traditional grants, which I think in the university context you're very used to in what we finance, but we have increasingly also included an equity component in our activities in order to allow the companies to start the scale-up process and not be limited by the size of the grant funding, given the fact that often, especially in the deep tech area, the cost of developing these innovations is very high and exceed very much what we can give, the support we can give with grants. It's an innovator-centric initiative. We have to advise us a board, the Eic Board, I will say a few words about this, that are drawn from the world of research, the world of innovation, the world of entrepreneurship, the world of investment. And these people drawn from all member states actually are helping us devise the right approach towards our innovators. And we have also tried to be much more proactive with the way we manage the funding. In other words, we can reorient project, adapt, change the content of it quickly in order to follow the development of projects much more than it has been the case, I would say, more traditionally. And then finally, we do this, of course, part of an innovation ecosystem in Europe. I mean, we are not here to replace what member states are doing at their level. Vilnius, for example, is very well known for the presentation we just heard about FinTech. And this is, of course, the strengths of the different member states to build on that. So in other words, we will try with our activities to increase the impact of the actors in the ecosystem where it makes sense for us to do so, and therefore we will develop a strategy of coordination with other parts of the program and other parts of the ecosystem across Europe. So now if we look at the funding instruments that we have available, so the Pathfinder is, like I said, disruptive innovation from TRL 1 to 4, so from the idea to the proof of concept. Here the idea is to concentrate on early stage research on breakthrough technologies. We give grant up to 3 to 4 million. It's a consortium-based type of project to which I guess if you're part of Horizon Europe and you're familiar with the grants that we give is very familiar to you. So here nothing is changed in the way this is being done, but of course the subject is that we focus on breakthrough market creating deep tech type of innovation. We have complemented this Pathfinder, which is supposed to bring to the level of the proof of concept the ideas to see whether they can fly, the technologies, whether they can fly, with a transition funding instrument, which is new. This is also for consortia, but it's also possible for single entities, mono-beneficiaries, to lodge a proposal with us. And here we are aiming at technological maturation from proof of concept to technological validation. This is particularly important in the area of deep tech, where the technological validation often require a lot of certification, testing, prototyping, and so on, and requires quite a lot of time. And we have, of course, added a business and market readiness component. As we know, many innovators, many researchers, when the project is very successful across many universities, research institutes and so on, have, I would say, a kind of a difficulty to make the jump necessarily to create a company to implement their technologies in the form of a startup. And we are also providing this type of help in order to make that particular jump. And make sure that those technologies actually lead to potentially a market player as quickly as possible. And then finally, the accelerator, which is by far the biggest component of the EIC. It will be about 70% of the funding that we have available. This is reserved for individual SMEs and startups, so mono-beneficiary instrument. And here, of course, we aim at the development and the early scale-up process of these deep tech disruptive innovations. And here we provide mostly blended finance, which is a combination of grant up to 2.5 million euros and equity up to 15 million euros. In certain cases, it could be above. And the idea here is to facilitate the beginning of the scale-up process. And we do that by having calls that are happening I would say 2 to 3 to 4 times a year. And we deploy here a number of business acceleration services to help those companies grow faster and access the necessary expertise in order to plug the holes that they may have in their skills sets. So now, if we look at what has happened, because the program was launched very, very early, Horizon Europe, as you know, was approved in May, officially last year, in May 2021. We anticipated that, and we launched the calls already in March 2021 in order for us to be able to do what you see now in 2021. So what you see here, you see that for the accelerator, so we have a strategy under Horizon Europe to have both open calls that are bottom-up. So it is for the researcher, for the innovators to specify what they want to research. It could be at the intersection of different domains or sectors, and this is left to the freedom of the innovator. But we have also used what we call challenges, and these challenges put the spotlight on EU priorities, and those EU priorities are clear from what you can see here on this table. The Green Deal, obviously, this is the top priority of the von der Leyen Commission, and probably will stay with us as long as we are trying to implement the challenge of climate change. The strategic technologies in digital and health. I mean, the other priority of the von der Leyen Commission is these digital technologies and making Europe more digitally able. I mean, again, to send it back to the presentation we had just before. And of course, health became a priority because of the pandemic. And we put the spotlight on these 3 areas under the accelerator in 2021. We had 2 calls with 2 deadlines to cut off, the 16th of June, the 6th of October. As you can see, we got 1,800 applications over the year, and we selected 164 proposals in total. And that represented, I would say, a bit more than 1 billion euros of funding for these companies in 2021, which is already a significant chunk of the budget that was allocated. Now, if we look to the Pathfinder, we had 2 calls, one under the Pathfinder Open, which was actually the first one to close in May. And here we selected 56 proposals out of nearly 900 of them, which led to 168 million euro of money allocated to these priorities. And then we had challenges for the first time in the Pathfinder, where we selected a number of priorities that you see that are more, of course, targeted from the point of view that we are, of course, further early stage in the research stage. And here, as you can see, for example, green hydrogen, cell and gene therapies, and that deadline, that call closed in October. Again, lots of demand, more than 400 proposals, 39 selected, 132 million. Then for the first time, we had a call on transition, which was also both open and challenges, where we put the spotlight on medtech and devices and energy harvesting and storage. And here we selected for about 100 million euros of proposal, 45 proposals selected. So that gives you an idea of what happened already. And now I will show you how we have done it across the European Union, looking at the accelerator. So you see a great, I would say, of course, one important point is that we are, and probably you're aware of it, open not only to EU member states, but also associated countries that are associated to the European Union research program. That means so far that this is countries such as Norway, the Western Balkans, the Eastern Partnership countries, so Ukraine, for example, is associated, the Western Balkans, but also Turkey and a number of countries in the Mediterranean, like Israel. We are still have not concluded the association of Switzerland, which is pending because of political discussions between the European Union and Switzerland. And I don't think I have to explain to you why the UK is still not part of it. Though we hope that maybe the political situation will improve at some point, will allow the UK to be associated again, like it was as a full member, of course, of the EU in the previous period. So the results we had of 2021, you have it per country, as you can see, and the Lithuania is somewhere in the middle. So, I mean, it appears in the middle, but of course, there's not a lot of proposals that have been selected, since here you see the number of companies selected and those who have provided actually proposals. I mean, the reason for this is that, of course, if you put the spotlight on deep tech, the countries that are spending quite a lot of money at nurturing at the level of their ecosystem with national policies at the level of their innovation agencies, for example, the deep tech area, of course, are there sending their startups to then apply to the accelerator, which explains why, for example, France and Germany and the Netherlands end up ahead. They have very, very dynamic areas. Israel has also very dynamic ecosystems, as you know very well. And then you have a number of other countries that also have made a particular effort, like Spain or the Nordic countries there. In the newer member states, if we can still call them that way, now that even enlargement took place a long time ago, I think the fact that structural funds remain available exercise, I would say, of course, a competition with what we offer here centrally, but we are, and my presence here today is to just communicate yet again that we are open for business, and we would like the good proposals that are emerging from Lithuania to come and apply. Because, of course, we would like very much to see the best companies that are emerging from the Baltic states or the newer member states, from Lithuania in particular here today, to come and apply, and we are not going to stop making that point everywhere we go. Because we believe that the dynamism that there is in those countries is something that we definitely would like to capture with the EIC. Now, if we look at what we have offered in 2022, so the way the program works is that we have a work program adopted every year that allow us to change a bit the priorities. So here you have the cutoff. One of them was in March. The next one for the accelerator is in June. So again, we have now a number of technologies for the challenges that are linked to the so-called open strategic autonomy of the European Union, which has, to a certain extent, also put the spotlight on a number of things like quantum computing, cybersecurity, blockchain, and so on. And we have, in terms of funding available, close to 1.2 billion euros. The Pathfinder has an ongoing call for Pathfinder Open, that has just closed and that we are evaluating. and the challenges. The deadline is for the 19th of October, and you can see here the priorities that are under challenges. I will not read them all for you, but of course they are quite, I would say, narrower. They are being defined by our program managers that we have hired, and they are now helping us define priorities, challenges that are much more relevant to their field, their area of expertise. And here we have close to 200 million euros available. And then transition, we can, under the transition open, they can come at any time. And the cutoff for the challenges, then for the cutoffs are the May that we are evaluating the first one, and September. So that's what we have. Now, if we look at the opportunities for the EIC Pathfinder project, I will just highlight a number of things. We have the possibility to top up the projects that are selected under the Pathfinder with a booster grant in order to bring potentially the project to commercialization if it's already ready there and doesn't wait for a transition project later on. The possibility, of course, to convert to transition in case there is a need to develop a full research project, additional research project. And of course to submit a proposal to the EIC Accelerator, and of course access to a range of business acceleration services in order again to develop the skill set necessary to bring this project to the commercialization stage. Now you have the EIC Board, which was established in November last year. We have geographical balance, 20 countries represented, gender balance also, it's fully gender balanced board, and we have there entrepreneurs, investors, researchers, a representative of the ecosystem as well, and they help us define the strategy, the work program, the challenges, the priorities, and I can tell you they challenge us at every meeting almost. This is a very painful process, because at every meeting they come with new ideas and they criticize a lot what we do. They are trying all the time to cut the bureaucracy as much as possible, which is often, you know, the Commission, not often very easy for us to do so. But it's very good because that allows us to look more at what can be done. Now, a few words on the EIC fund, which has been operating since mid-2020, since we implemented the pilot and we launched this idea of blended finance, taking equity to companies. So we have been now operating for 2 years approximately. We are providing this equity, of course, to help the companies start the scaling up process. And of course, we do that not by investing only in the companies, which would be I would say maybe sometime interesting for the companies that they get access to that money, but I would say, and what we have experienced, not very good for them, because the market then will have difficulties to consider them credible to be financed later by the market. So the way we do it is that we invest only when we can invest with others, market participants, in order to get a market validation from private investors of what we believe are good investment opportunities. And the fact that we give them a grant and the fact that we give them equity up to 15 million should de-risk enough those very risky disruptive innovations for the market then to find an interest in them. So that's the principle of what we're trying to implement. That doesn't necessarily work every time and does not necessarily work very fast every time, but this is what we have been trying to do. And of course that allows us to have, first of all, the fund is revolving. In other words, those who work will pay back and those who don't work will fail, but we hope that then in that way we will accumulate more money and plug it back into the program. And of course, by calling on the private investors, we hope that this will leverage the impact of our money in it. So, of course, we invest early stage. We don't have a particular, I would say, stage or round of financing in which we are present. We invest at seed, pre-seed, and also Series A, B, C. And we remain for potentially a long time in the company. So we are a patient capital provider, which is often in the area of deep tech what you need, because in deep tech you tend to have, I would say, a long time before this type of technologies bear fruit and find their market and develop the manufacturing facilities that they need So we need to be there for the longer term. It's in deep tech, you cannot really have the commercial VC model of a return on investment over a time horizon of 3 to 5 years. That's why we commit to stay over a time horizon of 7 to 10. Of course, we are present in every technologies and verticals, in all EU countries and associated countries. And we also try to provide mentoring and other type of services in order to help the founders. And we also retain the right to do follow-on investment. So, I mean, we are not there only for one shot. We can, of course, come back into the company at the subsequent round if needed. And we remain taking very small minority stakes. On average, this has been 7% so far. We can go up to 25 if needed. This has never happened until now. And usually we target around the 10% range, but like I said, on average, we finished at 7% here. On the portfolio that we have developed at the level of the fund, 141 companies in which we have made a positive decision to invest. You see again the companies that we have invested per country. So France is by far the biggest, then Israel and Spain, and then Norway sent us lots of companies. Switzerland, because we were in the previous program when Switzerland was associated. We have a Latvian company, one Estonian company, but no Lithuanian company, so I guess to be for the future. And if you look at the sectors, of course, since we are in deep tech, over-representation of health, engineering and technology, ICT, biotechnology, construction, transport. So, I mean, by definition, this is what you see inevitably because the focus of the program is very much what I have told you. Now, if we look at the Lithuanian participation, so I think it was important that we nevertheless highlight it here. It's, if you look at the contribution and the number of grant first, we have one grant first, one blended, so in total 2, which amount in total to 6.9 million euros allocated so far in 2021. And just briefly, we provide also business acceleration services. These are there to support the different activities, in particular by providing coaching and exposing the companies and the projects to corporates, large corporates that are looking at the introduction of those technologies, either to buy them and use them or to insert the technologies in their processes. So we have now quite a large network of companies, of large corporates that are interested in our portfolio of companies that we meet very often. And we are still developing that approach further by trying now to build a network of European ecosystem partners in order to access services that are the best can be deployed. And then I think that's probably the last one. You can have here a summary of the impact. We have already 4 unicorns in our portfolio. So, I mean, I will not, of course, make the outlandish claim that they are unicorns because of our support. I mean, of course, we gave very, very small support, but it's good to be part of the picture of successful European companies. So, of course, 4 unicorns. But we have many centaurs, as you can see, 91 centaurs, meaning a market capitalization of 100 million euros or above, which is not bad for a program that has been operating over the previous period and now in this period. So we hope with the increased level of ambition, we will manage to see even more of these European companies being success stories and potentially building global leaders in their areas, which is exactly what we are trying to do, trying to help actually this process. And then, again, maybe something that's quite important for you to keep in mind, divided between the accelerator and the Pathfinder, you see the different areas, if we look, for example, at green, at digital, or at health, and the sectors in which we have those projects. So you can see, for example, that we have lots of projects in areas such as photonics, lighting, sensors, optical, of course, if we look at sustainable areas and electric vehicles and so on. So it gives you a bit of a map of what we have made, we have supported so far under the two main instruments. And the last one, this is how to apply. I guess you will distribute the presentation, so these are easy for you if you click on it to find the relevant information in order for you to develop something that you would like to apply with. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan, Mr. Stefan. Are there any questions? Thank you very, very much for the statistics and for showing all the, unicorns and centaurs, and we have, yeah. Are there any questions? If not, I would ask you 1 minute of your time. We will just switch the presentation, so just 1 minute for relaxation. Okay, so we are ready. Welcome back. Also, one more announcement. We have some, and I believe we have some participants online, and we are broadcasting this session on funding opportunities through Vilnius University YouTube channel and Arcus channel. So we will continue to broadcast it till 11 o'clock. So take your time to hear some more funding opportunities. So now we are having Justina Luczynska. She's the national contact point for Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions from Research Council of Lithuania. Thank you so much, Justina, for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. I'm Justina Luczynska. Do you hear me? Yes? And today, together with Viktoras Mangirdas, we will present you Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. So the European Union needs strong, resilient, flexible, and creative human capital with the right combination of skills to match not only today's needs of the labor market, but also future, to innovate and to convert ideas and knowledge into products and services. The European Union should encourage more and more young women and men to choose researchers' career, to promote Europe's attractiveness for top talents from around the world, to retain its own researchers and reintegrate those working elsewhere. And the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions are the main instrument to do so. Between 2014 and 2020, the MSCA have supported 75,000 researchers and have funded over 1,000 excellent international doctoral networks. The principles underlying the program are the following, and I would like to start with the first one. It is excellence. The MSCA support excellent researchers. They promote excellence in research and innovation collaboration, in trainings, in supervision, in career guidance, in methodologies and content. The second principle, very important in this program, is mobility, because MSCA support the mobility of researchers between countries, sectors, and disciplines. The third principle is open to the world, which means that MSCA are open to all domains of research. Second principle is bottom-up, and this principle means that there are no strictly defined topics in Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions work program. Institutions and researchers choose themselves the domain and the research they would like to do. The fifth principle is effective supervision and career guidance, which means that MSCA promote effective supervision, mentoring, and career guidance. And this helps to create a supportive environment for the researchers to work. And the last one, but not of course the least, is the principle excellent recruitment, working conditions, and inclusiveness, which means that Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions promote the principles of European Charter for Researchers and Code of Conduct for the recruitment and researchers. And you can see that this program was launched in 1996, and for the period 2021-2027 has a budget 6.6 billion euros. There are 5 types of MSCA program, and as you can see, the first one is Doctoral Networks. And the objective of a doctoral network is to implement doctoral programs by partnerships of organizations from different sectors across Europe and beyond. The second type is the postdoctoral fellowships, and this action targets researchers which hold PhD and wish to carry out their research activities abroad, to acquire new skills and develop their careers. The third type of MSCA is staff exchange. This action funds short-term international and intersectoral exchange of staff. The fourth type is co-fund, and this action provides funding for regional, national, and international doctoral and postdoctoral programs. And the last one is the MSCA and citizens, and this action is to bring research and researcher closer to the public at large, with a focus notably on families, pupils, and students. And today we are going to present you only 3 of these types: doctoral networks, postdoctoral fellowships, and staff exchanges. But before that, I would like to press the point which countries are eligible to participate in MSCA. So first of all, it is all 27 countries of European Union, but also overseas countries and territories linked to member states. And here in the bottom of the slide, you can see the list of these countries and territories. The second group of countries which can take part in MSCA, it is so-called associated countries. Association to Horizon Europe takes place when countries sign agreement between European Union and this country, and legal entities from associated countries can participate under equivalent conditions as legal entities from the European Union member states, unless some specific limitations or conditions are laid down in the work program or, for example, proposal. Such measures, such limitations could be in order to safeguard the European Union strategic assets, interests, autonomy, or security. And the third group of countries which are eligible to take part in MSCA are non-associated countries. And most Horizon Europe calls are also open to participants from non-associated countries, but I should press the point that not always with funding. In MSCA can participate legal entities from academic and non-academic sectors. And here you have examples what we mean by this. So examples of academic sector you can see here: public or private higher education institutions which offers academic degrees. The second example is, of course, public or private non-profit research organizations and international European research organizations. Non-academic sector, it is any socioeconomic actor not included in the academic sector. An example, it can be non-profit organization, it can be hospital, museum, etc. The European Union provides support to researchers and to institutions. And the European Union provides support for researchers in the form of, as you can see, living allowance, mobility allowance, and if applicable, family, long-term leave, and special needs allowance. In addition, as I have mentioned, also institution can get support for research, training, and networking activities, and for management and indirect costs. And MSCA has fixed rates, unit costs such called 1 person month. There are two types of participants in Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions: beneficiaries and associated partners. And as you can see in this table, beneficiaries sign the grant agreement with the European Commission, recruit researchers, train and host researchers, participate in a supervisory board, and directly claim costs. Associated partners can only train or host researchers and take part in supervisory board. And now I would like to present you the first type of MSCA, which is Doctoral Networks. The aim of Doctoral Networks is to implement doctoral programs by partnerships of organizations from different sectors across Europe and beyond to train highly skilled doctoral candidates. And there are three types of MSCA, as you can see. The first one is standard doctorates. Its participants implement a joint research program for doctoral candidates. Second type is industrial doctorates, and they train PhD candidates who wish to develop their skills and step outside academia, in particular in industry and business. And they should spend at least 50% of their time outside academia. The last type of Marie Skłodowska-Curie doctoral network are joint doctorates. It's a doctoral program to deliver so-called joint degrees. What we mean by this? So the result of joint doctorates can be single diploma, so one diploma, yes, but issued by at least 2 academic institutions located in 2 different countries. Another example, it is double or multiply degree. It means that candidate gain 2 diplomas, yes, which were issued by 2 or more higher education institutions located in different countries. He can gain, of course, 3 also diplomas. It depends of this program. Now I would like to show you the key features of doctoral networks, and let's start from the consortium. As you can see, a consortium should include at least 3 independent legal entities, each established in a different European Union member states or Horizon Europe associated countries, or at least a minimum 1 beneficiary should be from European Union member state. All beneficiaries should recruit at least 1 researcher, and there is also a restriction according to the funding, because not more than 40% of funding should be in the same country or to single international organization. What are key features for duration? As you can see, the duration of program is maximum 48 months, fellowship between 3 and 36 months, and secondments can be worldwide and up to 1/3 of the fellowship duration, and for whole program, total eligible up to 360 person months for standard doctorate programs, and plus 180 additional person months for joint and industrial programs. And what are also key features for fellows? So fellows can be of any nationality. Fellows should be enrolled during this program. There are open call for the fellows. It means every researcher can take part in it. There is a bottom-up initiative on themes, and we explained it. Yes, so the researcher comes with the idea of the research you would like to do. This program, as I have mentioned, is open to all domains of researchers, and there is a focus on interdisciplinarity. If the fellowship is longer than 6 months, there should be a career development plan. And very important is a mobility rule, which means that if you want to take part in this program, you mustn't have resided or carried out your main activity like work, studies in the country of the recruiting organization for more than 12 months in the 36 months immediately before their recruitment date. And there is also one more restriction for resubmission. So you cannot submit again your proposal if you have gained below 80% of scores. As I have mentioned, MSCA supports not only researcher, supports also institution, and you can see here the financial funding. The first part of this table, it is for researcher that he gets every month, but I should press the point that this amount, it is gross. The first one, it is a living allowance, as you can see here, but here I should also to press the point that living allowance has a country correlation coefficient, which you can find in the work program, page 107. For example, for Lithuania, it is 73% of this amount. Second, what can every month researcher gain? It is a mobility allowance, 600 euro, family allowance, if it is applicable. And in this new funding period, there are novelties, because there is long-term leave allowance and special needs allowance. And I would like to explain you what it is. So this special needs allowance can contribute to the additional costs for researchers with disabilities. It is an example, assistance by third persons, adaptation of work environment, additional travel or transportation costs. And this long-term leave allowance is eligible in case of researchers' leave, including maternity, paternity, sick, or special leave longer than 30 consecutive days. And of course, every proposal is evaluated by experts, and experts evaluate MSA doctoral network proposals according to three main criteria: excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. Each of these criteria has its weight. So the most important is excellence, with a weighting 50%. In the second place is impact, with 30% of weight, and implementation has only 20% of weight. Every of these criteria has its sub-criteria, and I have bold you here the key words, the most important, what expert is looking and evaluating in proposals. So, for example, in the first criteria, they evaluate quality of research and innovation objectives, quality of methodology, training program, supervision. In the second criterion, experts evaluate how this proposal helps to contribute to structuring doctoral training in Europe and strengthen European innovation capacity. Also, for example, in this criterion, experts look and evaluate quality of measures to maximize expected outcomes and impacts, and projects' contribution to the expected scientific, societal, and economic impacts. And the last criterion, as I mentioned, quality and efficiency of the implementation. Here, experts evaluate, for example, work plan, assessments of risk, work packages, and role of each participant. And now I would like to ask my colleague, Viktoras Mongirdas, to continue.
Hello, my name is Viktoras Mongirdas, and together with my colleague Justina, we are national contact points for Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions here in Lithuania, and our direct and main task is to raise your awareness and support your decision to write the proposal. Of course, every country has its own national contact points, and for the audience which is listening and looking, as I want to also remind them that they can every time get some information and consultants from the persons like us here in Lithuania. I will continue with presentation of two more actions. The first of them is postdoctoral fellowships. Postdoctoral fellowships are quite popular. Every year, call attracts about 10,000 proposals because the proposals are mono-beneficiary. You do not need to find a partner. The proposal is quite short, and you must in really a very concentrated way to present your proposition for the competition. There are two types of fellowships. They're based on mobility rules. One is for moving inside the European fellowships, up to the project duration up to 24 months. And the second one is the global fellowships, with going outside the Europe with mandatory returning phase for 12 months to finish your fellowship in the Europe. The key features the features, just to remind those who knows and refresh your knowledge for the information you at every time can come and can come to us to get any possible consultation. So the main features are that, of course, researchers must have a doctoral degree. Some limitation is the 8 years of full-time experience in research is a maximum, and the call deadline, the researchers can be of any nationality. As I mentioned already, the mobility is the main feature, so you must comply with the mobility rule. Justina already told about it. And all research and technological development domains are eligible for funding, so it's a bottom-up principle. You can propose your idea. There is limitation for a submission for those who didn't obtain 70%, and of course there are employment in the host organization, and you can also have additional 6 months at the end of the project if you are placing yourself in non-academic organization. It's a strong support and strong drive of the program to strengthen the collaboration of researchers with non-academic sector. What criteria is what criteria are in general the same? There are excellence, impact, and implementation. You are given 3 scores with their weightings, and of course, as I mentioned, the competition is quite big, so you really must be excellent and give high scores in all three criteria. The staff exchanges, one more I think interesting proposition from Marie Skłodowska-Curie program. Here, as the title already says, it's the action promotes international, intersectoral, interdisciplinary collaboration in research and funds short-term international, intersectoral mobility of research and innovation staff, of all research staff in wide is eligible for funding. The researchers, administrative and managerial staff, of course, all disciplines are eligible for funding, and activities supported is as the main is seconding and hosting eligible staff members. Of course, the mobility based on 3 I's: intersectoral, international, interdisciplinarity, networking activities, and new skills and acquisition and career development as the whole Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions do. The main thing is the career development of researchers. Key features of the staff exchanges. It's obvious that the consortia must be there in order to exchange the staff, so 3 independent legal entities. The maximum duration of the projects is up to 4 years. EU contribution amounts of 360 person months, and one eligible staff member is restricted to 12 months of secondments, from 1 to 12 months, and this can be splitted during the duration of the projects. The mobility again between different countries, and the secondments must be performed on full-time basis, and there are no new hiring of researchers, because the rule is that they are already working at the institution for at least 1 month before the first period of secondment. The budget is oriented to top up of those eligible researchers who are working in the projects and going to exchange with their colleagues in different countries. So the home institution must pay the normal wages and top-up allowance from European Commission from the project. You can see here 2,300 euros per researcher plus institutional costs, like in all other funding scheme of Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions for research training and networking needs, and management and indirect costs are covered by the sum you can see on the slide. Again, when writing a proposal, you must of course pay the biggest attention to award criteria. You must address every sub-criteria in these three columns of the table. You can see there are up to 4 sub-criteria. You can read really carefully and address everything in your proposal in order to be competitive. And now there are information on calls. You can see it's standard situation. There are two spring calls already opened last week. This is postdoctoral fellowship and doctoral networks. They are opened on year basis every spring. It's in May till September and November, with the budgets accordingly you can see here. And there are 2 other autumn calls which will be opened in October for staff exchanges and co-fund action. Here you can see the dates of open and deadline, and budgets dedicated to them. And information, all official information, of course, you can find on Funding and Tenders portal, all work programs, guide for applicants, and all documents you will need, you can find there. You can, of course, come to us and we will explain you in detail and help you to if you take a decision to apply. That's all.
Thank you, Victoras. Thank you, Justina. Sorry. Thank you, Victoras. Thank you, Justina, very much. So further on, we are going on with quick presentation by Ms. Emilia Hechtova. We will shorten a little bit our coffee break, and I would ask Emilia if you can just shorten your presentation. Sorry for that, okay. Okay, so Emilia is Policy Officer, Innovation Policy and Access to Finance Unit, DG Research and Innovation from European Commission. So we are very happy to have you here, and the floor is yours, Emilia.
Thank you very much, and warm greetings for very hot Brussels. Today is exceptionally warm, and I hope you hear and see me well. I'll try to summarize what I was planning to tell you, and I believe that you already heard the more specific instruments and opportunities for your research. And I will give a bit more on the overarching scenery of the access to finance rather as a policy and what we have also in place in Horizon. I believe you heard some more details and of course information from my colleague Stefan Oaki, but I will start now. Sharing my slides. Very well. So to begin with, I believe that I should not really, I am really in the right place to speak today. So I don't need to persuade you a lot that due to its capacity to produce the technologies and the solutions of the future, research and innovation is really in the center of many of the policies of the Union. And of course, we look very much forward to develop a very strong research and innovation policy in the Union, and we built on the excellence of our research, which we hear is very often in the center of the success stories within the Union and in its member states. Why I started with the innovation policy first before I go to access to finance? It's because we see actually access to finance as one of the important streams, but we still need to have more of an overarching vision of what we aim to do with our research and innovation policy. And that's why very recently the European Commission published a call for evidence in order to shape a new European innovation agenda. And I will just give you briefly the context and why do we look into that basically now. Of course, we face many challenges, as you know, and I don't need to list all of them, but we also face a very ambitious political agenda of the Union, the twin transition, the green and digital, the resilience of our economy, building also stable healthcare system, and of course, also strategic autonomy, which is a very important word nowadays, more and more due to the recent crisis in Europe. And that's why we actually look into this overarching innovation agenda that would bring together the numerous policy initiatives and instruments that support research and innovation. And in particular, I will look into innovation in my next slides. And of course, this innovation agenda will need to articulate more precisely the aspects and the concrete instruments and initiatives that will allow more efficient implementation and maximum impact within the European territories. This is exactly the policy context we look at. And of course, as I already mentioned, innovation is very much critical to meet our objectives. While we know that there are a variety of problems also on a local, regional, and EU level, we rather see the most problematic, but where we see most impact in the future within these 5 key areas. So one of those is today my topic of discussion, access to finance. And I will quickly go through the next point. As myself, I've been part of the academic society in the past. I know that it's very important that we have a very good problem definition, and we in the Commission, we tried our best, and we still actually are looking into the feedback that we received from the call for evidence. on what are the problems that the innovation society in Europe, a community in Europe is looking at. And starting, of course, from the big picture, and of course, benchmarking with our friends, but also peer economies, and of course, competitors within the research and innovation landscape. Looking into the big picture, and if we compare EU versus the United States, we can acknowledge that Europe is really excelling with its research and research results, but also in terms of startups. However, the fact that we just have as much as startups as in the USA is not, unfortunately, delivering on the number of scale-ups. So those successful startups that will soon be on the path to become a unicorn. And this is exactly one of the biggest problems that we identified. Of course, this is very much linked to access to finance, where we see that the late stage investment rounds, meaning above 30 million of euros investments, mainly coming from VC funding, are unfortunately fewer, and they're much smaller in Europe than in the States. But of course, looking into the causes for that, we can identify quite a few. Very often, the main issues are and the main bottlenecks are within the cross-border aspects of access to finance, as you can see from the ones that we listed. The unequal geographical spread of activity in terms of market participants, financial market participants. But we also identified that the conditions for initial public offerings are still something that we can look at and improve. And maybe if you look into my slide, you will end up with the same conclusion that I already listed below, that we need to look into the framework conditions. My colleague Stefan already presented to you some very important instruments, and I heard that also other speakers spoke about the opportunities. So we do believe that there are quite few instruments and funding opportunities from the public sector, starting from European, going to national and local level, but there is still a big need to leverage all this available funding and to actually multiply it and deliver more impactful results for all parts of Europe. And we are looking into particular actions. So of course, they will be all around, as I said, the EU regulatory space. But more or less, they're also problematic in general for the pace of innovation and technology advancement in Europe. And I will just go quickly to the main point. So we speak here for the sweet spot and intersection between our research and innovation policy and then the access to finance and basically the world of finance. So how does it look in just one or two slides? Well, of course, we have and in the left part of the slide, something that is well known for you probably, our grants, and I will speak a little bit later about them also within our Horizon Europe Framework Program. And you know that the advantages are a lot. Of course, we look into the lowered technology readiness level. So this is very much what we will expect coming from the universities, from projects like yours. And they are very often driven by excellence. And this is the key feature of our programming here on research and innovation, that we really fund and support excellent research. But of course, if we go further to the left side, we also see that we change the advantages. So we have, of course, higher amounts of support. And then we need to find this perfect intersection between public and private interest, because mainly our funding is driven by the public interest. And it's a very important, of course, aspect and that's why we like to talk to you and listen to you when we shape our instruments. But then, of course, there are always these limitations when we have to move from research to innovation and technologies. And then, of course, in the center of this remains the IP, which we produce with our excellent research, and how we actually translate it into something valuable for the scale up of the innovation. And of course, the main question we look at is what is the public added value when we look into your projects, and then the market will ask, so what is the profit when we want to see this innovation already happening in the market. And basically, this is still an ongoing, it's a work in progress. And the journey from the innovation to the market is not that, is again another lengthy and complicated one. It could be a little bit like a roller coaster, as you can see from the slide here, starting from the grants and then going to the grants that we have under Horizon, and of course those that are trying to improve the talent within the universities of Europe. As it was already mentioned with the Marie Curie program, but then we go into the blending stage, the blending and the guarantees that we provide. So we had the InvestEU already presented, as I assume, and this is where we see a very, very efficient instrument to support the next stages of the development, from research to deployment and demonstration, and of course having market level innovation. And on the right side, we come to the main point. So what we do in terms of supporting access to finance, and that's exactly what the EAC and the InvestEU program are also trying to help to enable our research and innovation to go towards. And as I mentioned, Horizon Europe, it's probably a good moment that I tell you a little bit more about our program. It is, of course, the newest and the most ambitious instrument so far on research and innovation. And it's the largest, of course, in terms of budget. We mentioned a couple of times excellence, and Europe is really proud with its results. And I mean, when we speak about access to finance, I should always try to bring the figures in order to support my strong statements. Here, when we look into the research, we can definitely, and the research and the development outcomes of our policies, we can have the certitude to say that we have a very good leadership and very good and strong basis to transform our research into breakthrough and disruptive innovation. But we still have some work to do. And this is exactly the main point of our Horizon Europe program. It turns to be from funding instrument, investment instrument. So it's a very important aspect of the new program. And I just wanted to give you a bit the flavor of how it is structured before I go into more the details of my main part of Horizon Europe that I wanted to present to you. So of course we have the 3 pillars. This is the most important structure-wise formulation of the program. So we have the excellence, and these basically pillars, they are supporting the main objectives of the program. And there you see very well Marie Curie program, which is of course supporting the excellent science. And then the pillar 2, which is more or less focused on the variety of clusters that are of course supporting our industrial excellence. And we already have a good basis to build on. And the Innovative Europe, which is mainly linked to the access to finance. And it's exactly what I was planning to give you a bit the overview on, if you haven't had the chance to learn more about it, as it's a relatively new feature of our Horizon programming. And again, speaking about access to finance, this is the very good example why I say that our program is very ambitious, and it's the largest so far. Also, not only within the European Union, but also in the world. We have sorry, I think here, yes, you have the figure. So it's almost 100 billion of euros for the next 7 years. And as I mentioned to you, the budget is spread around the several pillars of the program. And speaking about access to finance and our Innovative Europe Pillar 3, then you see that we have a decent share to be used to accelerate the innovation in Europe. A little bit more about our Pillar 3. It actually has these 3 specific elements, components of it. So the European Innovation Council that you heard about from Stefan. And then you have the European Innovation Ecosystems, which I would say a couple of words about. It's a new component, a new program where we already see some impact on the local level and the national. And this is a very important. It's a central element and objective of the program itself. It's very much focused to create a pan-European innovation ecosystem where we see that the strengths of the different countries and regions are used in a consolidated manner to really bring more impact also on a union level. And then, of course, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, which probably you have heard about. It's been there for already 14 years and supporting also not only the business sector, but the academy, and trying to build very strong impactful relations on a local level as well and the regional. So I will move towards to one of the components that I mentioned about. But before that, I just wanted to share this slide with you. It's a quote from our commissioner, and I think it very much it really emphasizes on the importance of our Pillar 3 and why we need it to bring Europe closer to our objectives of building a strong innovation ecosystem and really delivering on our expectations for technological sovereignty. Again, few numbers just to give you a flavor of what we have in place. So as I mentioned, the European Institute, the EIT is actually a success story with quite few numbers that could really tell you more about its impact on a regional level. But then the ESC, which was already presented, has delivered quite significant results, and it's still developing and bringing innovators to the next level. And now, as I mentioned, you can see that the European Innovation Ecosystems is another promising initiative that hopefully, with its ambitious budget, will deliver good results. Just a sec. So. And mentioning the European innovation ecosystems, well, it's a very good concept because it's bringing it is supposed to create really an interconnected and inclusive innovation ecosystem. But the most important is that it wants to bring it aims to build the actors from research to innovation. And there we have, of course, the government, the governance, and then the civil society, of course, research, RTOs and universities, and the business. So it's a very new concept, which of course has been more or less strengthened within the years, and also it's a very important to create synergies between other parts of Horizon Europe that we already have in place, but also between the variety of territories within the Union and the associated countries. There are three actually destinations within the European innovation ecosystem. So I call for your interest to go to the link after that I put at the end of my presentation, and to learn a little bit more on the opportunities stemming from the program. But just briefly, besides the description, I will give you also a couple of examples. So these three destinations are actually very important frameworks where we receive different objectives of the program met, and targeting, of course, the right stakeholders. So the actions in the Connect destination will focus on building interconnected and inclusive innovation ecosystems across Europe, drawing on the existing strengths of national, regional, and local ecosystems, and pulling in new and less well, and of course bringing together less well presented actors and territories. So also the cohesion component is an important part of the European innovation ecosystem and widening countries. In terms of scale up, well, of course, as it's also implied in its naming, it is very much looking into the reinforcement of network connectivity within and between the innovation ecosystem, but of course to accelerate sustainable business growth and with high societal value, and of course impact on the investments landscape. And very important element here is that there are some prizes there, which I would also encourage you to look at. They're also very, very good stimulus for researchers and innovators in terms of delivering recognition and some financial incentives. And the last destination is the SMEs, but its call has closed already in 2021. But if you're curious to learn more about it, it's in the website. As I mentioned, I'm already providing the links on all that I presented at the end of my presentation. And two examples, so that we are not only theoretical, but I wanted to show you some of the upcoming opportunities under the European innovation ecosystems. So in terms of scale up, we have one of the next calls with the focus on, of course, increasing access to finance and capital in less connected innovation ecosystems. And this is very much related to enhancing the firepower of regional investments. And there we have a variety of stakeholders, which could be of an interest for you, but I believe the next slide will probably be more adapted to our audience today, where we have the Connect destination. And there we actually have all the relevant stakeholders of the innovation ecosystem from across the quadruple helix. And there, of course, the academia and the RTOs could look at and find their objectives integrated. And then I would welcome you to follow I would encourage you to follow us, our DG, but of course our policy work. I forgot to mention that we had recently a report, and there was a large consultation exercise to shape our new European innovation agenda. And there are already some results published, which if you would like to have a better understanding on, I give here the link. Of course, you're very welcome to get to know more about the European Innovation Ecosystems and the European Innovation Council. And I hope that I can answer your questions in the end of the session. As I understand, it's quite flexible today, but I am here if you have some other points to raise.
Thank you very much, Emilia. Applause to you. Thank you. I really personally liked your slide on, bumpy road visual bumpy road about the pathway from from innovation to market. So thank you very much for detailed presentation. I think we will gather the questions because we are a little bit short in time. We will gather questions and I will send you them if we have them, and we will communicate in written form, I think. So thank you one more time. It's a pity you are not here with us, but well, hopefully you will be joining us maybe next time. So thank you one more time, and have a great weekend. I hope you have a sunny weather there in Brussels. We cannot hear you.
I cannot unmute myself. I cannot unmute myself.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I do, but I cannot unmute myself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was just trying
to
signal that I'm not able to.
I'll keep in touch with you. Thank you so much. Okay.
That's one of the reasons why we'll be very happy to join you next time, because then we'll have the opportunity to have a very fluent conversation.
Yes, we need it. Thank you so much for joining. So, okay, so now it's a coffee break for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So let's come back 5 minutes after 12, okay? Looking forward to further discussions with you.